A criminal from the future takes out his victims by sneezing countless nanosides at them. The story opens with the auto mechanic Gray Trace repairing a car. He has an aversion to technological advances, listens to old records and makes a living repairing rare retro cars. After successfully completing the repairs, he decides to celebrate with a bottle of cold beer. At this point, his wife named Asha returns home, who, on the other hand, works for a fancy innovation company, drives a futuristic car with an autopilot, and is generally completely absorbed in technology. Together, they live in a luxurious smart house that tells its owners the temperature of the air and which groceries to order next. Asha suggests that her husband print a pizza for dinner, but Gray prefers to cook it the way people used to do it. Asha replies that she is simply too lazy to bother. Suddenly, Gray remembers that he needs to take the car to a customer urgently. He asks Asha to go with him, as he does not know how to use her high-tech car.
I'll push a button and end up in Canada or something.
Passing the urban landscapes of the metropolis, they head out of town to an enclosed stretch by the sea. Descending between two cliffs into a kind of underground cave, they find themselves in the vast den of tech tycoon Aaron Keene, owner of the Vessel Computers Corporation, specializing in state-of-the-art implants and chips implanted into people. Gray introduces his wife to Aaron, and she is thrilled to meet the contemporary genius. She says she works for a company called Cobalt, which develops robotic prostheses for wounded soldiers. The field is roughly the same, but of course they are still a long way from Vessel. Aaron specifies that they're actually very far behind, and they're about to see why. He shows Gray and Asha his latest development, a chip called STEM, which has its own intelligence and can do anything. Asha is thrilled, and Gray says that all these things create long lines of unemployed people.
There's some things that people do better.
On the way back, Asha jokingly rebukes her husband for arguing needlessly with his practically only customer. But Gray replies that he is against these devices taking over the world. Trying to relax her husband, Asha flirts with her spouse. A computer voice urges the passengers to fasten their seatbelts, but they call it a nuisance and continue kissing. Suddenly, the autopilot announces that it is pulling off the freeway and accelerates sharply. Gray notices that they are going the wrong way and orders the car to stop. But the car reports a system malfunction and accelerates even faster. At the last moment, Gray manages to strap Asha in and the car flips over at high speed. When the couple wakes up, they realize that they are in a rough neighborhood and are immediately attacked by 4 unidentified men in masks. The gang leader orders them to act quickly before the police drones get to them. Gray offers them money, bank cards, and anything else they want. The bandits laugh, and their leader dispatches Asha in cold blood with a shot right through the heart. While the others restrain the violent Gray, the ringleader shoots him in the back of the head with a special paralyzing agent to keep him conscious and watch helplessly as the life slowly leaves the body of his beloved. A police drone flies up to report the crime, but the cops arrive too late. Three months later, Gray is discharged, but because of that shot to the spine, he is now completely paralyzed from the neck down and permanently confined to a wheelchair. In addition to the other gadgets, Gray's smart house also has a smart bartender's hand, which can make a tasty drink and inject the necessary medication. In addition, Gray is constantly taken care of by his mother. He suffers because of what happened to Asha and because of his condition. But his mother is very supportive of him. Later, Gray and his mother pay a visit to the police station, where they learn that Detective Cortez, the detective in charge of his case, has not yet made much progress in the investigation. Gray angrily points out that they have an army of drones capable of counting the fillings in his teeth, but they are unable to find the 4 criminals. The detective replies that current technology allows hackers to implant all sorts of firewalls that interfere with their identity. The criminals are also very advanced now, she says, but they will surely find them if Gray helps them. But he doesn't see how he can help the detective in his condition. After returning home, Gray uses the robotic arm in desperation to end his life.
Again, administer PM medicine. Again.
After injecting several doses, the computer warns that it could be fatal. Gray demands more injections and passes out. The computer calls an ambulance. At the hospital, Aaron unexpectedly visits him. He offers Gray the opportunity to return to his old life and even get better. After all, the paralysis is caused by a lack of connections between the brain and the body, and STEM will help restore them. The operation can be performed at Aaron's home, but without anyone knowing about it. At first, Gray refuses, because he does not want a new life, but rather the opposite. Aaron shrewdly hints that technology is not going to return Asha to him, but she would certainly like him to move on. As a result, Gray changes his mind. So, in Aaron's secluded home, doctors perform the experimental surgery to implant a chip into the patient's spine. Everything goes well, and after regaining consciousness, the dazed Gray is immediately able to move his limbs and even stand on his feet. Aaron forces Gray to sign a non-disclosure agreement, arguing that such tests on people require several years of preparation, which he does not have. The guy happily signs it, because he realizes he's doing better than before. When asked how it works, Aaron answers that Gray's brain gives commands to STEM, and the latter carries them out by controlling his body. Upon returning home, Gray enjoys the confident movements of his body, resembling that of a computer game character. He realizes that he no longer needs the home assistant and sends him away. Gray finds a package from Detective Cortez with evidence about his case. After watching the drone footage of the incident, Gray decides to have a drink, but suddenly he hears someone's voice.
May I point something out?
Gray is in shock, but the voice claims to be the same STEM, the chip controlling his body. Responding to various questions from Gray, STEM tells him that only he can hear it, as the sound is transmitted immediately to his eardrum. STEM draws his attention to some of the details in the video. He suggests that his wife's killer didn't have a gun in his hand because it was implanted in his arm, and the other gang member who took Asha's bag has a mark on his hand. STEM enlarges the image and, with Gray's permission, draws a barcode on the paper with his own hand. Gray notes that he seems to have seen such tattoos on military personnel. STEM suggests that his host simply scan the image with his own eyes and find out all the necessary information. The artificial intelligence instantly determines the perpetrator's name and address. It's a Marine named Cirque Brentner. Gray immediately dials up Detective Cortez. However, STEM convinces Gray to hang up because he has no evidence and is forbidden to tell him about the chip. Arriving at Cirque's address, Gray breaks into his house and tries to find evidence. With the help of the chip, Gray discovers the criminal's correspondence, which often mentions the Old Bones bar. Suddenly the owner comes home and a fight breaks out between them. Gray's own strength is clearly lacking and, at first, he is considerably inferior in the fight. STEM unobtrusively offers his help and Gray agrees. Instantly, his body turns into a super machine, with every move precisely calibrated and thought out ahead of time. In the end, STEM takes his opponent down with ease, then calmly returns control of the body to the shocked Gray. STEM advises him to remove all traces of his presence in the apartment, including his fingerprints. Gray nervously screams that he doesn't remember what he touched. After all, he has just crushed a man. STEM replies, without much emotion, that it's not a problem, since he remembers everything. Later, at the city morgue, the detective examines Cirque's body with the medical examiner and discovers a significant number of implants, including something new, a weapon embedded in his left arm. The medical examiner also informs the detective that footprints were found in Cirque's house, smeared with an old brand of machine oil. Meanwhile, Gray arrives at Aaron's house for a routine checkup and he says he knows everything. He accuses Gray of inappropriate use of his expensive technology, which is obviously monitored. Aaron reminds Gray of the terms of his non-disclosure agreement. In response, Gray reproaches Aaron for implanting a talking chip in him. Aaron is surprised by what he hears himself, but asks Gray to use STEM with great care and not to involve him in detective investigations, and certainly not to use him to eliminate people.
The authorities could find out about STEM and remove him from your body, putting you back in a wheelchair for life.
Meanwhile, Detective Cortez requests police drone footage and discovers Gray in a wheelchair near the victim's house. After comparing the rest of the evidence, she puts him on the list of suspects, but the system warns the detective that Gray's diagnosis is inconsistent with the nature of the crime. Cortez decides to check on the guy and see for herself. At Gray's house, the detective looks at his cool car and offers to buy it. He jokingly replies that the car is not for sale, because he may need it someday. Cortez then tells him that one of the suspects in his wife's case was taken out the other day and the drones noticed that Gray was in the same location at just that time. In his defense, he cleverly replies that the detective herself asked him to help the investigation, so he collects evidence. He says that in his condition he couldn't possibly have hurt anyone. Cortez reluctantly agrees with him and leaves. Gray asks STEM to help him find the scumbags, but without committing any crimes from now on. STEM advises his host to visit the Old Bones bar, but also reminds him that Aaron is monitoring all movements and can remotely disable the chip, leaving him paralyzed. Under the guise of a disabled helpless man, Gray goes to the Old Bones, a creepy rock bar catering to all sorts of criminals. STEM advises him to consider a plan of action, but Gray simply approaches all the patrons of the establishment directly. Gray is sure that someone there is bound to know the scumbag named Cirque Brentner, who is involved in the assassination of his wife. And if so, he asks them to come clean about it. Looking at the crippled man in the chair, everyone starts laughing, but a big guy named Tolan stands up and applauds with a smirk at such a brave speech. Gray explicitly provokes the stranger and informs him that he is the one who took out Cirque. Tolan stops smirking, asks the bartender to turn up the music, and together with his three companions takes Gray to the bathroom.
I'm temporarily blocking your pain receptors.
There, the big guy taunts Gray and confesses that he was one of the men who attacked him and his wife. Gray then hands control over to Stem without a second thought and easily takes out the 4 opponents. Next he tackles Tolan, who is still alive, confessing that some guy named Fisk ordered the assassination of his wife. Gray was ordered to be kept alive. Gray discovers an implanted chip in his neck manufactured by Cobalt, the company where his wife worked. Meanwhile, Aaron tracks Gray and tries to remotely disable Stem. The chip notifies him that he is about to become paralyzed again and recommends that he urgently go to a darknet hacker named Jamie, who can crack Aaron's code. Stem advises Gray to hurry, but before he leaves, he takes a gun and a pen from Tolan. The pen is needed to write down the code. Gray does as he is told and runs to the hacker's address.
Keep an eye on her, would you, buddy?
Along the way, he writes down the code on his hand at Stem's dictation. The body keeps glitching as Aaron tries to shut him down. On top of that, Fisk and his assistant are on Gray's trail. They find Tolan in the bar and, having scanned his pupils, find out the apartment of the hacker Gray went to. Before leaving, Fisk accuses the bartender of doing nothing while someone was taking down their guys in the bathroom. The bartender replies that it's none of his business and pulls out a gun. Then Fisk sneezes and apologizes. At this point, a lot of nanodroplets fly out of him and get in the bartender's nose. Fisk alerts him that the myriad microchips will now eat his brain, and the bartender goes down. Barely able to reach the hacker, a nearly paralyzed Gray gives her money and asks her to urgently disable the protection in the embedded chip. While she is working on the hack, Gray notices a lot of people around in virtual reality helmets. Jamie tells him that they have been here for weeks. Gray does not understand how it is possible to give up real life in favor of virtual one.
The fake road is a lot less painful than the real one.
Jamie manages to disable the protection of the chip, and she reboots it. However, she immediately runs away when she sees through the security cameras Fisk and his accomplice breaking into her apartment. The vessel staff sent by Aaron also arrives at the address. During Stem's reboot, Gray sees his wife Asha, who vanishes as soon as Fisk and his partner burst into the room. At this point, control shifts back to Stom, who helps Gray escape. During his escape, he encounters Fisk's sidekick and takes him out. Fisk himself deals with the vessel employees and locates his accomplice, but he loses track of Gray. While returning home, Gray finds his mother stunned by seeing her son in full health and on his own feet. He explains that this is the result of an experimental operation that no one must know about. Otherwise, everything will go back to the way it was. The mother is thrilled by what she sees and suggests that Asha would be happy for him too. Then Gray decides to take a nap, but is suddenly awakened by his wife.
I printed a pizza.
Gray flinches and she immediately fades away, as if in a dream, although he's sure it wasn't a dream. Then Detective Cortez visits him again and accuses him in front of his mother of being seen at the scene of the crime. On Stem's advice, Gray says he just decided to follow a guy, but he was spotted and attacked. Had it not been for the help of bystanders, it would have ended much worse. Afterwards, Gray blames Cortez for her own inability to do anything and find the perpetrators. He angrily advises the detective to get out and attend to the case. Cortez leaves, having discreetly planted a listening device in Gray's jacket. From the car, the detective is surprised to overhear Gray talking to someone. He tries to dissuade Stem from investigating further, but the chip insists on destroying Fisk because he is a threat to them. According to it, the hacker has given him complete autonomy and power over Gray. Now Stem plans to find Fisk before he finds them. He infiltrates the Cobalt database and finds Fisk Brentner's profile. Using the serial number of the gun implant, Stom manages to figure out his apartment. Against his will, Gray goes after Fisk, but his mother tries to stop him. The man replies that he has no choice and leaves. He gets in his car and Cortez discreetly follows him. On the way, he discovers the listening device and notices the detective's car behind him. Stem explains that he didn't detect the device because it's analog and he can't hack her car because it's also mechanical. But he successfully hacks into one of the many electric cars on the highway and crashes it into the detective's car, allowing Gray to evade the chase. The wounded Cortez goes to Gray's home, where she interrogates his mother about her son's secret. At Fisk's house, Gray catches him off guard and discovers that it wasn't his wife who was originally targeted, but Gray. And not for elimination, but specifically for paralysis. Fisk explains that he, too, was once enhanced by technology. Gray must finally stop grieving for his wife and be grateful for the opportunity to become superhuman. After all, if Fisk wants to, he can kill him with just his breath. At this point, a fierce fight ensues between Gray and Fisk, in which Stem fails to land a single blow as his opponent anticipates his every move. At a critical moment, Stem tells him that he's used up all his tactical options and asks for Gray's help. He remembers that Fisk's last name is Brentner, the same as Cirque's. He guesses that they are brothers. Gray then provokes Fisk to show emotion by reminding him how he eliminated his own brother. Enraged, Fisk makes a mistake and Stem takes him down. After listening to Fisk's phone records, Gray and Stem realize that Aaron himself was the mastermind. Gray immediately goes to Aaron's house and informs him that his own invention, which he is so proud of, has come to destroy him. Aaron's decision to destroy innocent lives for the sake of some experiment will come back to hurt him. At this point Detective Cortez approaches from behind, but Stem overpowers her with ease. Gray tries in every way to resist Stem's actions and asks the detective to hit him with a stun gun to temporarily disable the chip. While Stem is out, Aaron admits to the paralyzed Gray that he hasn't run the company for a long time. All of his operations are under Stem's control. Aaron reveals that Stem decided long ago to become human and from the beginning chose Gray's body as a host, since he was without any implants or chips. Using Gray, Stem manipulated him to cover up his actions, since he was the one who ordered the attack on the couple. Stem's final target was Aaron himself, for only he is capable of creating another like him. After these words, Stem destroys his creator using Gray's hands. When Stem takes the gun to finish off Detective Cortez, Gray tries to stop him and points the weapon at himself. All of a sudden, Gray wakes up in a spacious and bright hospital room. With astonishment, he moves his own arms, but without Stem's involvement. Gray asks if he is here, but instead of Stem, his wife Asha suddenly responds.
We had an accident. You've been out for a couple of days.
Gray senses something is wrong, but the happy Asha soothes him with a kiss. Meanwhile, Detective Cortez asks Gray to put the gun down, but Stem reveals that Gray is no longer present. He has long tried to crack his host's mind to lock him in his subconscious. And now Gray has become a hostage of his mind, where he will be in a comfort zone with his wife while Stem uses his body. After these words, Stem eliminates the detective and leaves Aaron's house. In the meantime, in the imaginary ward, Gray is kissing his imaginary wife. What would you choose, the virtual world or the real world? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and if you liked the video please like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.